Good morning, students. Today we will discuss performance and testing of internal combustion engines. Testing and performance of internal combustion engine. Here, how we are testing the performance. What are the major parameters we have to concentrate on performance testing. Second one, then what are the emissions? Our engine is good, but emissions contains highly polluted materials in the exhaust gas, then it is not acceptable. Safety is first important. Environmental concern is first important. We are polluting environment, we are energy efficient engine is running, means government's not allowing to sell the product. So we have to consider the emissions. What are the emission components? On that harmful pollutants, what are the harmful pollutants? What is the limitation? We will discuss in emissions of standards only. Next, simple problems we'll solve on the heat balance sheets. Why? Because energy is conserved. So chemical energy we are supplying inside the engine. We are producing mechanical energy. 30%, 40%, whatever. Remaining where it is going, that heat balance is required. That heat equivalent of chemical energy, work equivalent is coming as a mechanical energy rotation of shaft. Remaining where it is going, that we have to consider and we have to give the balance sheets. So these points we will discuss in this unit. First, engine performance point of view, the major concern, the three parameters are interlinked, three parameters are there. One is power output, second one is speed, third one is fuel consumption. In olden days up to 2000 year, fuel consumption and power output is important point. It has to pull more load and want to get mileage also. At that time, the customer need. At present, customer need speed and power, fuel consumption least bothered. When the customer is bothered about fuel consumption, at that time petrol cost is 35 rupees, 35 to 70 maximum up to 2010 also. I think not cross at 70. But now the fuel cost is crossed 100, but customer is not interested on the fuel consumption. You can see highest selling two wheelers in India. One is Honda Activa, second one is Enfield models. Both are not only Hero, also some ladies vehicle is there, and TVS also one Jupiter something is there. All are that Suzuki also one ladies vehicle is there. 125cc engines. Mileage least bothered for us. Now power output and speed is required. So customer thoughts according to financial status, economic upgradation of Indian citizens are increased. So requirements are changing. But performance analysis we are considering the power, fuel consumption, speed. These three are interlinked parameters. And some nomenclature we are studying: absolute rated power, maximum rated power, normal rated power, or rated speed. Normal rated means general condition. What is the maximum power we can achieve? One is maximum rated power means as at short period of time while in overload condition or short uphill condition. At that time, how much excess compared to normal rated, how much excess power they can generate. Like that, rated speed means at particular rated power, in which speed we are getting the rated power. There is a nomenclature we are seeing. What are the performance analysis we are doing? Means we are measuring the efficiencies: indicator thermal efficiency, brake thermal efficiency, mechanical efficiency, volumetric efficiency, and relative efficiency. These are the efficiencies we are determining while calculating the performance analysis of the internal combustion engines. For the calculation of this one, we have to measure the indicator power, you have to measure the brake power, you have to measure the friction power. And specific fuel consumption, one more item is there. It's not efficiency, specific, because fuel consumption is our main concern. Specific fuel consumption also. Some of the parameters we are measuring: what is the piston speed, what is the mean effective pressure of this piston, what is the fuel air ratio, what is the kilo value of the fuel. By measuring this one, we are calculating the indicator power, brake power, friction power, and specific fuel consumption, and different efficiencies. One by one we will discuss. First we will discuss how we can measure the indicator power, how we can measure the brake power, how we can measure the friction power. Indicator power means from the chemical energy, why? Because we are supplying air or fuel or air fuel mixture inside the cylinder at the suction stroke. At the combustion stroke, we are giving spark if air fuel mixture is entering into the cylinder, or we are only sending the air, then we are spraying the fuel. Then combustion will take place. At the after combustion, whatever the heat energy is available inside the cylinder is called indicated power. That's all. Is indirectly chemical to heat. How we are determining this means by using indicator diagram. Then R&D labs they are using indicator diagram. This is the positive work output, negative work output. Net work output equal to positive minus negative. We will get the net heat availability. By using indicator diagram, we are calculating the indicated mean effective pressure. What is indicated mean effective pressure means? You see, what is indicated mean effective pressure means? It is a hypothetical pressure acting on the piston while its expansion. The average pressure acting on the piston while its expansion is the mean effective pressure. First, we want to determine the mean effective pressure. Theoretically means work done by swept volume or stroke volume. But by using indicator diagram, we are calculating the mean effective pressure, area of the indicator diagram by length of the indicator diagram into spring constant. Once you determine the mean effective pressure, you substitute indicator power equation. Indicated mean effective pressure, length of the stroke, area of the cylinder, number of power strokes. Why? Because they are giving speed. With two-stroke engine, every revolution of the crankshaft we are producing one power stroke. So number of power stroke equal to RPM for two-stroke. Coming to the four-stroke engine, number of power strokes is equal to speed by 2. Why? Because every 2 revolution of the crankshaft we are producing one power stroke. Next K means number of cylinder. That's all. Plan. Directly we can recall ourselves. Plan. Divide by 60 into 1000 we are writing. This is not mandated. If mean effective pressure in Newton per meter square, then convert into kilonewton per meter square we are writing 1000. If speed in RPM, generally we are measuring speed in RPM. So to convert into RPS, why? Because final units are kilowatts or kilojoules per second, not minute. So to convert into second, we are divided by 60. That's all. So this numerical value is not a mandatory thing. Only this plan equation for indicator power. One small problem we can solve, then we can get a good idea of the things. Cylinder. The following observations have been made from the test of a four-cylinder two-stroke petrol engine. Four-cylinder two-stroke petrol engine. So number of cylinders are 4. Two-stroke means every revolution of the crankshaft we are producing one power stroke. So number of power stroke equal to speed. Diameter of the cylinder 10 cm, stroke they given 15 cm. Convert into meters. Area of the indicator diagram, length of the indicator diagram, spring constant. So everything is provided. Just write down the given data. Diameter convert into meters, 0.1 meter, length 0.15 meter, number of cylinders K equal to 4, speed 1600 RPM, and the number of power stroke equal to RPM, and area of the indicator diagram 5.5 centimeter square, length of the indicator diagram 5.5 centimeter, the spring constant is 3.5 bar per centimeter. Then indicated mean effective pressure equal to area of the indicator diagram 5.5, length of the indicator diagram spring constant is 3.5, length of the indicator diagram 5. Here we maintain centimeters. Why? Because the spring constants also they given in bar per centimeter. So these three parameters we maintain centimeters itself. Then we can final answer will come in bars. We convert into Newton per meter square. Then 3.5 into 10 power 5 Newton per meter square. So indicator power equal to we calculated mean effective pressure and area pi by 4 d square, stroke length, number of power stroke equal to RPM only into number of cylinders are 4. Final indicator power is 43.98. Second method, determine the brake power and friction power, and brake power plus friction power equal to indicator power. That's all. So next measurement of the power output is brake power. Heat energy is available From out of that heat energy, how much mechanical energy we generated. Where we are measuring the mechanical energy? At a crankshaft, because piston is rotating reciprocatively. The reciprocative motion we are converting by using connecting rod arrangement to the crankshaft. So the crankshaft only the driving force to connect the automobile transmission system. So at the crankshaft, whatever the power available, that is called brake power. So whatever the heat power available inside the cylinder is called indicated power. Out of that indicated power, total will not convert. Some power is lost by the frictional loss. Some power is lost by the frictional loss. Except after loss of friction, whatever the power is at the end, it is available at the crankshaft is called the brake power. Generally, brake power we want to determine means we want to determine the torque generated by the shaft and the angular speed of the shaft. Angular speed we can measure by the tachometers, contact or non-contact. But torque we have to measure. For measurement of torque, two types of the dynamometers are there. One is absorption dynamometer, second one is transmission dynamometers. Absorption dynamometers only we are for testing labs generally we are using absorption. At particular instant we can measure, not continuation mode. But transmission dynamometers we can measure the brake power output in continuation mode. So continuously we can measure the brake power by using the transmission dynamometers. Absorption dynamometer generally it is available in all testing labs. Some examples are Prony brake, rope brake, hydraulic, eddy current. We will discuss this core. And one of the transmission dynamometers, strain gauge based transmission dynamometer. Also we will discuss how we are calculating the brake power. First one, the Prony brake dynamometer. Here crankshaft is connected to flywheel. Flywheel is held by the wooden brakes. Wooden brakes tightly joined to the flywheel by using bolt and nut against spring tension. This is the loading arm. Torque arm is called. The end of the loading arm by thread rope we are connecting the counterweights. So to determine the torque generated by the engine, how much load for absorption of the torque, how much load is required and what is the length of the arm. Load into length of the arm, we will get the torque generated by the engine. That's all. Generally brake power we are measuring by 2 pi nt by 60 into 1000. I already mentioned by 1000 is coming is torque in Newton meter, then only we are writing 1000. Speed in RPM, then only we are writing 60. Otherwise brake power equal to 2 pi nt. That's all. So this torque in Prony brake system, W, this is the counterweight to absorb the torque generated by the engine, and what is the length of the arm. Load into length of the arm will get the torque generated by the Prony brake. So in the examinations they are giving Prony brake type means they will give load and length of the torque arm or diameter of the torque arm they are giving. Then we have to determine the length of the torque arm divided by 2. And rope brake, this is a simple one. The crankshaft connected to one drum. Drum is wound by the threads. Rope thread 2 to 3 wounds. One end is connected to the spring balance, another end is connected to the counterweight. One end connected to the spring balance, another end is connected to the counterweight. We are supplying same method for torque generated by the engine. We are measuring by applying application of the load. Due to the friction between the thread and this rope drum, high temperature absorption of the heat, high temperatures are creating. If you are not providing cooling facility, this burning of the thread will take place. Burning of the thread will take place. Okay, burning of this thread will take place. So cooling facility, absorption, whatever the power it is absorbing, for dissipation of the absorption will take place by heat. Then what is the equation for determination of the brake power means pi d n into W minus S. This W they are giving in kgs generally, weight in newtons, so into acceleration due to gravity. This is the counterweight we are providing. In opposite direction also some spring load is coming. So difference of this one only the net weight applied in the drum. So that is only we are writing. So pi d n into w minus s divided by 16 to 1000 I already mentioned. This is not mandate. Is speed in RPM, then only 60 is coming. Load in newtons, then only 1000 is coming. So these are one of the simplest one dynamometer. Next, hydraulic dynamometer. It is one of the easy heat dissipation. This is the crankshaft. Crankshaft is connected to the rotor, and rotor is covered by casing. Casing is freely rotating on the bearings of the crankshaft. This casing is filled with the hydraulic fluid, means water only. Then rotor is rotating by centrifugal force. Casing also ready to rotate, but we are resisting the casing rotation by the counterweights with a spring load. Then how much load we applied to whatever the generated torque to absorb the generated torque, that load only we are calculating. Here for that hydraulic one, generally brake power equation is speed into load by that dynamometer constant. Different size of the dynamometers, the dynamometer constant is changing. Is the one of the dynamometer available in our lab. The dynamometer constant is 2000 HP or 2000 into 1.36 kilowatt. This is the spring load acting on the casing to stop the rotational torque. Then that is the load and the speed of the engine we are writing. So these are the three general mechanical type dynamometer, absorption dynamometers for measurement of the torque generated by the engine we are calculating. Next, eddy current. A simple one. In this also crankshaft is connected with the rotor. Okay, rotor made up of copper or aluminum. The stator contains small electromagnets. The stator contains small electromagnets. The small electromagnets number of small electromagnets. While in the circuit, the rotor is rotating in the field. It is generating the eddy currents. By generation of the eddy current, some heat will generate. So for cooling system, we have to arrange. But only one advantage of this eddy current type, there is no limitation of the capacity of the engine. Earlier condition, every time we are applying counterweights. Counterweight we are applying means some limitation is there. This absorption dynamometer can measure 50 HP output, 100 HP output, 200 HP output. That's all. But eddy currents, only eddy currents are generating. By some multiplication factor, we are determining the torque generated by the engine. So there is no limitation of the size. Any type of the size of the engine, we can measure the torque generated by the engine. So multi-purpose application, one of the best absorption dynamometer is eddy current dynamometer. Next, transmission dynamometer. Actually, in R&D labs we are using. Why? Because once we developed the engine, we have to determine the brake power output in different loads, different speeds, in different conditions. Continuation mode, 10 hours running, 20 hours running, 30 hours. When we are rebore the engine, for engine cooling like that, we are continuously running the engine 24 hours. Then we will see if engine is in a working is good. If it is, if we face any problem, Lyron is correctly fit inside the cylinder or not, jackets water circulation is good or not, or gasket connections everything is good or not. So at least you are taking 24 hours time. Many automobile service field persons are they know. So continuously we want to measure the brake power output. Then we are using this strain gauge type. Pair of strain gauges connected to the crankshaft. Pair of strain gauges we are connecting to the crankshaft. Generally 4 bit strain gauge minimum we are connecting. I shown only two gauges, 4 gauges. The angular deformation of shaft with respect to load and speed we are measuring. Some multiplication factor we are determining the torque output of the engine. So here we are not absorbing. We are not absorbing, just transferring that angular deformation we are measuring. So Best method of means transmission dynamometer will give the best value compared to other one. For variant capacity of the engines, we want to test with a single testing setup, that eddy current one. But simple one is Prony brake and rope brake is the simple one. Simply that rough figures we can determine easily by Prony brake and rope brake. A small problem we will solve. The following observations were recorded during the trial of 4-stroke single cylinder. 4-stroke they mentioned, so number of power strokes equal to speed by 2. Number of cylinders 1 only. Average area of the indicator diagram 8.5 centimeters. Length of the indicator diagram 8.5 centimeter. Indicator speed constant 5.5 bar per centimeter. The brake load is 150 kg. Spring balance reading is 20 kg. So they given brake load spring balance means this is a rope drum dynamometer. Effective brake wheel diameter is 1.5 meter. So we can determine the brake power. Speed 200 rpm. The cylinder diameter is 30 centimeter. Stroke 45 centimeter. Next, calculate the indicator power and brake power. You see, diameter equal 0.3 meter, length 0.45 meter, number of cylinders K equal to 1, speed 200 rpm, and N, the number of power stroke equal to, in 4-stroke engine, N by 2. Area of the indicator diagram 8.5 centimeter square, length of the indicator diagram 8.5 centimeter. The spring constant is 5.5 bar per centimeter. The weight equal to 150 into 9.8 newtons. The brake diameter is 1.5 meter. The speed equal to 200 rpm. The spring balance reading is 20 into 9.81 newton. Then the indicated mean effective pressure is Newton per meter square. The indicated mean effective pressure is Newton per meter square. Then the indicated mean effective pressure equal to area of the indicator diagram by length of the indicator diagram to spring constant. The indicated mean effective pressure will get 5.5 into 10 power 5 Newton per meter square. Determine the indicated power, substitute indicated mean effective pressure, area, length, number of power strokes, number of cylinders, and brake power also. Pi d n into W minus S. So based on the given data, we have to extract the brake power equation. Finally, brake power is 20.03 kilowatt. So out of 29.16 kilowatt, only we converted out of 29.16 kilowatt of heat energy, we converted only 20.03 kilowatt heat energy only converted as a mechanical work. Remaining is lost by the friction. And one more, it is based on the Prony brake based example. A 4-stroke gas engine operating at 202 rpm. The effective diameter, this is a 4-stroke. So 4-stroke or 2-stroke, for determination of the brake power there is no difference. Effective diameter of the brake drum 1.6 meter. Net load on the brake is 80 kg. Here effective brake drum length they are not given. Effective diameter they given, radius they required divided by 2, 1.6 divided by 2, and load they given in kgs, convert into newtons. Mass into acceleration due to gravity, will get the no load 80 into 9.8, speed 202, and 2 pi speed into load into length of the torque arm, will get 13.28. These are the simple problems I discussed. Remaining you can practice yourself. Next one, frictional power. I already mentioned indicated power, how much heat we generated. Out of heat, how much we converted as a mechanical energy. Remaining, whatever the waste is taking place, that is called frictional power. Friction power is lost by the cooling system, lost by the lubricating system. But generally, friction power generated by the engine at the starting development of the engine itself, manufacturing stage itself, they will use some fixed value. It is not vary. Majority case, if something is happen, then only the losses will increase. Otherwise, almost same value we are maintaining frictional power. So how we are measuring frictional power? For determination of indicated power, brake power, frictional power, out of 2 we know, third one we can determine. because indicated power equal to brake power plus friction power. Whatever the heat energy developed here in the cylinder converted as a mechanical at the shaft, remaining is lost friction power. So frictional power generally we are measuring by William Lines method, motoring test, Moore test and retardation test. These are the 4 tests. The best method, determine the indicated power by using the diagram, indicator diagram, and determine the brake power by using the transmission dynamometer. Difference of indicated power and brake power, you will get the friction power. First one, the William Lines method. I will directly move to William. What we are doing in Williams Lines method, we are drawing the graph between fuel flow rate and the power output, the brake power and fuel flow rate. We are drawing the graph at a particular speed, the constant speed engines, only CI engines we are testing by William Lines method. Number of different loads, different specific fuel consumption is coming, the different engine speeds are coming, engine power output is coming, brake power. Then we are drawing the graph. Suppose it is a linear graph. It is easy to extend in a negative axis. Where it is intersecting at negative axis, whatever the power it is developed in negative axis, that is called friction power. But at full load condition, we will get linearity with the slope y equal to mx plus c. Then it is easily we are determining the brake power. General off load condition, 1/4 load condition, some curvature is coming. Then extension is of the curve is difficult, and some more than the actual values we are getting the friction power. So it is give very good accurate values in 2 conditions. The first condition is it is 2 conditions they are giving very good accurate values. The first condition in this William Lines method, one is full load condition. Second, indirect injection engines are giving very good value. The linearity of the curve is coming. Then easily we can extend to negative axis. Only for diesel engines we are using this William Lines method. Next, Morse test we are conducting in multi-cylinder engines. The Morse test we are conducting in multi-cylinder engines. I will explain how we are conducting. Here, multi-cylinder engines will determine the brake power first. Total, suppose 4 cylinder we are assuming, 4 cylinder engine we are assuming. Total 4 cylinder at particular speed, what is the brake power generated by the engine. Next, what we are doing, we will inappropriate one cylinder by the stopping the spark plug electrical connection, or by stopping the fuel supply to the injector. Maybe it is SI engine, it is CI engine. Any type of engine we can conduct test in Morse test. Then we are determining remaining 3 cylinders brake power. So at what speed, at whatever the initially total brake power purpose, whatever the speed we maintain the engine, at the same speed, what is the 3 cylinders brake power. So total brake power minus remaining 3 cylinders brake power, only the indicator power of the first cylinder. Next second cylinder, next third cylinder, next fourth cylinder. Like that, indicator power of first cylinder, second cylinder, third cylinder, fourth cylinder we are determining, and we are adding total indicator power we are getting. Total brake power already determined at the starting of the engine. First we determine total brake power only. Total indicator power minus total brake power, we will get the friction power. One of the best friction power determination method for multi-cylinder engines. Next, motoring test. Here what we are doing means engine is running, reaching steady condition means jacket water temperature, engine body temperature, everything is reached steady condition. Then we will stop the fuel supply. That crankshaft is connected to the motor. We are supplying electrical energy. To maintain same speed, how much electrical energy it is taking at no load condition, how much electrical energy taking, that is only the friction power. But motoring test, when it will give accurate values, before just starting the engine you are calculating frictional power means it will give higher values. Once engine reaching steady state condition, then after only you have to stop the fuel supply. So motoring also one of the best method for determination of the friction power. Retardation test, generally we are determining retarding speed how much time it is taking. We are running the engine maybe 1800 rpm, 2000 rpm. Suppose 400 rpm retarding while we cut off the fuel supply. 400 rpm retarding, how much time it is taken at no load condition. First we will calculate. It's clear. How much time it is taken when you cut off the fuel supply from 2000 it is running, means 400 less means up to reaching 600 rpm. Then at 20% load, at 40% load, at 60% load, at 80% load we are determining. From no load to 20% load, no load to 40% load, no load to 60% load, no load to 80% load. By using small relation based on the time taken, we can determine the friction power. So these are the methods we are using. One example we will solve for Morse test. A gasoline engine working on 4-stroke develops a brake power 20.9 kilowatt. A Morse test was conducted on this engine and the brake power kilowatt obtained when each cylinder was made inappropriate by short circuiting the spark plug. I already mentioned Morse test now only. So first cylinder inappropriate, remaining 3 cylinders brake power we are determining. Second cylinder inappropriate, remaining 3 cylinders brake power we are determining. Next cylinder inappropriate, next 3 cylinders brake power we are determining. Like that, first cylinder inappropriate 4.9, second cylinder 14.3, third cylinder 14.8, fourth cylinder 420.5 kilowatt respectively. The test was conducted at constant speed. I already mentioned. Total brake power, whatever the speed you maintain. Remaining 4 brake powers also you want to maintain same speed. Find the indicator, rated power and friction power. You can see. Same total brake power. This is the total brake power, 20.9 kilowatt. For brake power and cylinder 1 is inappropriate, 14.9 kilowatt. Brake power and cylinder 2 is inappropriate, 14.3 kilowatt. Brake power and cylinder 3 is inappropriate, 14.8 kilowatt. Brake power and cylinder 4 is inappropriate. Remaining 3 cylinders brake power is 14.5. The same equation. So first, indicate power of first cylinder, total brake power minus 3 cylinders brake power. You will get the indicate power of first, second, third, fourth. Total indicator power 25 into 5 kilowatt. Total frictional power equal to total indicator power minus total brake power. We will get 25.1 minus 20.9 equal to 4.2 kilowatt. A simple problem for your easy understanding we discussed. Remaining you can practice yourself. Next, once we calculated indicator power, brake power, frictional power, then we will move to the mechanical efficiency. Efficiencies we can move. What is mechanical efficiency? Whatever the heat energy available in the cylinder, how much heat energy we convert as a mechanical energy, means crankshaft rotation. That's called mechanical efficiency. Where the crankshaft, what power we are measuring? Brake power. At cylinder we are measuring indicator power. So out of indicator power, how much brake power you produce? That's all. Mechanical efficiency equal to brake power to the indicator power. Simple conversion. The maximum efficiency of mechanical efficiency you will get at rated speed 90%. We are increasing over speed condition. The efficiency will reduce to 75%. Less than 50% mechanical efficiency means we can condemn the engine. We don't want to use the engine. There is no use of engine. So mechanical efficiency of the engine 75 to 90 it is running at a good condition. Next, what is the fuel consumption? The specific fuel consumption of the engine. Mass flow rate to develop 1 kilowatt power, how much mass flow rate of the fuel is required? That mass flow rate we are representing by kg per hour. That's all. That is only difference. The mass flow rate we are representing by kg per hour. So specific fuel consumption means mass flow rate by power output. The power output is brake power, then that is called brake specific fuel consumption. The power output is indicated power, then it is called indicated specific fuel consumption. The specific fuel consumption units are kg per kilowatt hour. So mass flow rate we are representing kg per hour. That is the meaning. Kg per kilowatt hour. It is depend upon size, speed of the engine. If you increase the size of engine, means length of the stroke I am increasing, automatically it is decreasing the frictional power. So mileage of the engine is increasing because number of cycles we are reducing. We are reducing the frictional power. Automatically it is reducing the fuel consumption. But coming to the speed also, if you are increasing the speed at up to a particular speed, it is reducing the fuel consumption. Then after it is increasing the fuel consumption. That's why any vehicle, they will give green color, economy, range, speed. Maybe in two-wheelers 40 to 60 RPM. In four-wheelers 60 to 80. That is the actual throat opening, the accelerator, optimum throat opening. At that condition you are running the engine, you will get less specific fuel consumption. Next, move to the thermal efficiency, means power output to the heat supply. The power output is indicator power, then it is called indicator thermal efficiency. The power output is brake power, then it is called brake thermal efficiency. Indicator thermal efficiency equal to indicated power by rated rate of heat input per cycle. Indicated power divided by mass flow rate of the fuel, calorific value of the fuel. Heat supply, that is only mass flow rate and calorific value only. If efficiency of combustion they are giving, we are considering, otherwise we are assuming 100%. Practically also efficiency of combustion is 98% to 99%. Brake thermal efficiency, then brake power output by rated heat input, brake power divided by mass flow rate of the fuel into calorific value of the fuel. Generally, indicated thermal efficiency is varying from 50 to 60. The brake thermal efficiency varying from about 30, is 25 to 30. It is the range of brake power. Some good engine, brake thermal efficiency, and indicated thermal efficiency range. Next, volumetric efficiency, actual mass induced inside the cylinder at the time of suction divided by the theoretical volume of the theoretical mass induced in the suction stroke. Theoretically, how we are determining? Swept volume into density of the air only per cycle. Per minute means into speed. Density into the swept volume into speed. If by 2 we are writing, means it is a 2-stroke engine, that's why 2 came, it is a 4-stroke engine, that's why 2 came into numerator. If we are not writing 2, means it is a 2-stroke engine, that's all. Actual mass divided by the theoretical mass induced per minute. For CI engines, why? Because here the fuel is not entering. Coming to the SI engines, here mass of air plus mass of fuel is coming, remaining is same. Density of the air and volume, swept volume into speed. Speed by 2 we are at a 4-stroke engine. Why? Because spark ignition engines all are 4-stroke engine. 2-stroke we are not absoluted. We are not using 2-stroke. Directly we wrote 4-stroke. We assumed 4-stroke. So n by 2 came to the numerator. The volumetric efficiency of the engine generally for SI engines it is varying from 75 to 95 because SI engines are not supercharged engines. But CI engines majority are supercharged engines, turbocharged engines. You can see the nameplate, a CI engine, compressed ignition engine or a diesel engine. Common name is turbocharged engine. Turbocharged means by using exhaust gas, further expansion by using small turbine. The turbine another end is connected to the compressor. The inlet air we are compressing, so that is called turbocharged. Compressed air we are sending inside the cylinder at the time of suction stroke. So more mass of the air will enter inside the cylinder compared to the theoretical volume. So the volumetric efficiency for CI engines more than 100 it is coming, maximum up to 150%. Don't confuse. Why it is high means we are entering not ambient pressure air, compressed air we are sending inside the induced inside the cylinder while in suction stroke. Next, some more relations are there. Specific power, engine power output by the piston face area. Next, specific weight, engine weight by the engine power, and relative efficiency, brake thermal efficiency to the AC. These are the efficiencies we are calculating. Now I think it is clear how to determine the brake power, indicator power, and frictional power. Once you know how to calculate mechanical efficiency, specific fuel consumption, and thermal efficiency, and volumetric efficiency, and relative efficiency. Then small graphs we can draw, charts of the performance curve of SI engine with respect to speed. I already mentioned speed increases, frictional power is increasing, specific fuel consumption also increasing. Frictional power is increasing means brake power not increasing, indicator power is increasing. Automatically speed increasing means torque is reducing, because at a uphill condition we are running in low speed, then torque will high. At low speed torque is high. In general flat roads we are moving in high speed, at that time torque is low. For diesel engines, direct injection and indirect injection. Here the indirect injection engine, while speed is increases, brake mean effective pressure is reducing drastically. So brake mean effective pressure is reducing means brake power also reducing. So that's why indirect engine, diesel engines generally we are using for low speed, not high speed. Next, one more topic is heat balance. I already mentioned. We supplied some heat. Heat is supplied to the engine, mass flow rate into caloric value of the fuel. And what are the outputs? Heat equivalent output, first one brake power only at the shaft, that is only the useful. So we are determining the brake power by using different absorption dynamometers or transmission dynamometer. Next, there is one output is there, where remaining is last. The second last is by the cooling system. How we are determining the cooling system? Simply specific heat into mass flow rate of the water, cooling jacket water into outlet temperature of the water minus inlet temperature of the water. So temperature difference of the water jacket and the mass flow rate of the water and specific heat of the water. Specific heat of the water we know 4.2 kilojoules per kg Kelvin. The mass flow rate we can measure the mass flow rate, and we can measure the inlet outlet temperatures of the water jacket. Next, one more loss by the exhaust gas. One more loss will take place the exhaust gas. In the exhaust gas, heat carrying away by the exhaust gas means just mass flow rate into specific heat into what is the exhaust gas temperature, and here there is no inlet. So what is the ambient temperature? That's all. Above the ambient is the last. So mass flow rate into specific heat into exhaust gas temperature minus ambient temperature. Generally specific heat of the exhaust gas is 1 kilojoules per kg. Then you can determine the last. Remaining is unknown losses, unaccounted losses. This is the heat supply, mass flow rate into caloric value, brake power by using any dynamometer we are calculating, heat carried by the jacket water, MCP delta T, exhaust gas temperature minus ambient temperature into specific heat into mass flow rate of the exhaust gas. These are also these unaccounted losses. Total minus these three summation you will get the unaccounted. What is that unaccounted losses? Because for lubrication purpose, lubrication pump is required. For for circulation of the cooling water, circulating pumps are required, and blower fan is the radiator blower fan is there. For these three, these small equipments are there. That equipments also directly connected to the crankshaft, that camshaft, the camshaft operating the valves opening and valve closing, and controlling the pumps. So for that purpose some energy is consumed, that is directly we are unable to measure. That remaining is the unaccounted losses. Then we will see the balance sheet. This is the heat balance sheet. You can see the heat balance charts. These are the charts. In examination they will ask sheet and chart. Sheet means this is the balance sheet. Chart means represented graphically, then it is called chart. You can see for SI engines with respect to engine speed we are giving. For CA engines with respect to power output. You see CA engine you are increasing power output, work output is increasing, and cooling loss are also decreasing. Why? Because we are reducing the delay period, automatically engine performance is increasing. That's why overheat engines, CI engines called overheat engines. But these unaccounted losses are increasing. Why? Because we are increasing blower speed, we are increasing circulating pump speed, we are increasing lubricating pump speed. Automatically energy consumption is increasing. Okay, in CI engines you can see. SI engines represent based on speed. Normally this unaccounted speed increases means automatically unaccounted losses also increases. Not the power output is decreasing, No doubt out. Because we are increasing speed means we are sending the lean mixtures, automatically the power output is reducing. Because stoichiometric air fuel ratio we are maintaining. Okay. These are the charts, these are the sheets. Next, move to the emissions from the diesel engine or petrol engine, from the IC engines indirectly. The first emission is nitrogen. If engine is not overheated, air contains 77% nitrogen only. So same nitrogen will come from the exhaust gas also. The first emission is nitrogen. If nitrogen is not, if engine is not overheated, nitrogen will not react with the oxygen, so it will not form any NOx. So nitrogen is the first emission, it is a good emission. So it indicates good emission, engine is running good condition. Second emission, CO2. If complete combustion of the fuel is taking place, then only we will get the CO2 from the exhaust. Next emission is water. When engine is stopped after running of 60 kilometers, we can see some water droplets are coming from the exhaust gas. Means the condensation of the moisture in the air is taking place. So we are utilizing the latent heat of the vapor, water vapor available in air while in the expansion process. So more energy we utilized. So these three things are there, good engine. CO2 complete combustion, N2 not overheated, HO2 we are exhaust gas energy also we are using while in expansion. What are the hazardous ones? CO, hydrocarbons, NOx, particulate matters. Why it is coming? So complete combustion is not taking place, or particulate matter when silencer is not properly fit, the baffles, what are the baffles are connected, it is not sedimenting the carbon particles, then particulate matter will increase. So for this 4 only we are giving the norms, pollution norms we are calling. Only carbon monoxide, hydrocarbons, NOx and particulate matter. This 4 only the hazardous one. From 1991 we started norms. At present we are maintaining bar 6. At least we concentrate bar 6 norms. What is the allowable emissions? Harmful emissions. We have to know the standard. Carbon monoxide for petrol engine, gram per kilometer, 1 gram per kilometer carbon monoxide. Hydrocarbons 0.1 gram per kilometer, NOx 0.06 gram per kilometer, particulate matter 0.005 gram per kilometer, while is injector based engine. SI engines are both engine is there, injector based engine. At that condition only 0.05 grams per kilometer. Remaining condition there is no particulate matter in SI engine because volatile fuels, petrol is the volatile fuel, there is no particulate. Viscous fuels we are using, then particulate matters are coming to the picture. This is the minimum condition of allowable, the maximum allowable hazardous pollutants while running of the engine per kilometer they give for petrol engine. Move to the diesel engines. Diesel engines I already mentioned, based on the energy output they are giving. Why? Because diesel engines we are using for automobile, parallelly generators also. All commercial use generators are based on the diesel engine only. Next, this bar 6, here also bar 6 stand, 1991 we started, at bar 6 we are maintaining. The allowable carbon monoxide per gram per kilowatt hour is 0.5, hydrocarbons are 0.17 gram per kilowatt, NOx 0.08 gram per kilowatt hour, particulate matter is 0.05 kilowatt. This is 4-wheelers for diesel and petrol. Come to the 2-wheelers and 3-wheelers. Here Bharat 5 is running, but engine the manufacturers are adopted bar 6. That's why we are dealing with only bar 6 of the 2-wheelers and 4-wheelers. You can see spark ignition engines, carbon monoxide is 1 gram per kilometer. Here only CI engine also we given gram per kilometer. Why? Because this 2-wheeler, 3-wheeler we are using for automobile only. Automobile means per kilometer is we are measuring. SI engines 1 gram per kilometer, hydrocarbons 0.1 gram per kilometer, NOx 0.06 gram per kilometer, particulate matter 0.045 if it is injector based engine. Compressed ignition engines, carbon monoxide 0.5, hydrocarbons 0.1 and NOx 0.09 and particulate matter is 0.04. You see, carbon monoxide SI engine is producing more compared to SI engine grace period is high compared to CI engine. Why? Because CI engine air fuel ratio is varying 18:1 to 80:1. So more air is available in CI engine. So there is no chance of production of carbon monoxide. This complete combustion of the fuel. But SA engines, we are sending rich mixture, sufficient oxygen is not available. So that's why it will produce carbon monoxide. Second, NOx, you see. NOx, when it will produce, if overheat of the engine, only NOx will produce. Overheat is allowable for CI engines, not SA engines. If SA engine is overheated, means it will lose the performance. If CI engine is overheated, then it will reduce the delay period, and combustion efficiency will increase. That's why NOx is produced. SA engine is CI engine is more. Carbon monoxide production of SA engine is more. Same in three-wheeler also. SA engine and CI engine. SA engine carbon monoxide 0.44 and hydrocarbons 0.37 and NOx 0.085. In SA engines, three-wheelers, there is no injector based engine. That's why they are not given any particulate matter. For CI engine is there 0.22, hydrocarbons 0.10 and NOx 0.10 particulate matter range. So more than this is the maximum limit of the pollutants, allowable pollutants from the exhaust gas. Okay. Then some of the problems are there, you can solve yourself. There is no special again we are dealing. So with this I am ending the session. You see some only bar 6 emissions I shown. Same bar 6 I shown. So with this I am ending the unit. You can practice yourself some problems. So many problems are available. If you have any doubts, you can contact. Then I will solve the problem. Thank you. Thank you very much.